Hey, what's up guys? Kool-Aid here, and today we're going to be talking all about Stoker, the merc who most definitely loves the smell of napalm in the morning. Stoker has 120 health and a speed rating of 400, putting him on par with Artie and Skyhammer, two of the other ammo supplying mercs. For primary weapons, Stoker has 3 assault rifles to choose from. The first one we'll talk about is the Stark AR. It's a 3-round burst rifle that does 18 damage per bullet to the body, or 54 damage per burst. There is a 0.26 second delay in between those bursts, and each bullet within that burst has its own independent recoil. The Stark holds 27 rounds per magazine and takes 2.1 seconds to reload those magazines. And I'll give you guys my overall thoughts on all the weapons after I finished with all the stats. So his next weapon is the Timic 47. It's going to do 14 damage per body shot at a rate of fire of 550 rounds per minute, giving it a body DPS of 128. Holds 35 rounds per magazine with a 2-second reload. And the Timic does have an effective range of 29 meters. His final primary is the M4A1. It's going to do 14 damage per body shot at a rate of fire of 535 rounds per minute, giving a body DPS of 125. Holds 35 rounds per magazine with a 2.1 second reload. And it has an effective range of 26 meters. Of the 3 weapons, I'd have to say the worst one is the Stark AR. The same patch that brought a Stoker also gave the Stark AR a major nerf in DPS. It's still higher in DPS than the Timic and M4A1, and still a solid medium to long range option, but that's not really where I think Stoker shines. I think Stoker's more of a medium to short range merc, and I can't really recommend the Stark AR unless you're extremely accurate and like to play at those longer distances. Now, my personal favorite is the Timic 47, but that's mostly because of aesthetics. I like the way it looks, I like the way it sounds, and it's not too much worse than the M4A1, but I do think his best primary is that M4A1. It's going to have a slightly lower DPS than the Timic and a slightly shorter effective range, but it's still going to be more accuracy, and that accuracy, or more accurate, sorry, and that accuracy will make up for every other slight disadvantage. So if you're looking for maximum effectiveness, the M4A1 is still the king of the assault rifles in my opinion. Moving on to abilities, we'll start with the ammo station. It's a deployable that regenerates ammo at 1 magazine per tick, but will not cap you off like the fixed ammo crates located around the map. It has a 25-second cooldown and can be reclaimed to shorten or even cancel that cooldown. It can also block enemies, so laying them in doorways or hallways can often be kind of a pseudo form of area denial. Typically doesn't work all that great, but it doesn't hurt to try. Just make sure you're putting priority on supplying ammo, keeping that your top priority, since that's definitely more important. His other ability is the Molotov cocktail. It works similar to a grenade, but instead of one instant bang, it disperses a napalm-esque liquid over a radius on the ground. It lasts 10 seconds and has a 40-second cooldown. Now, if you activate it, which you can see the color of the Molotov change when you do so, and then switch to another weapon, you will get hit with a 10-second cooldown. Friendly fire and your own fire will be greenish, where enemy fire will be red. And you can of course run safely through friendly fire, but not your own fire, of course. The fire can be put out with enemy explosives or red-eye smoke grenades. However, so far I've rarely seen this happen, and most of mine had lasted the whole duration. The fire does roughly 40 damage per second and will do an immediate 50 damage on a direct hit. So direct hitting one of the faster squishier mercs usually results in a for sure kill. The mechanics of the Molotov are a little weird in that if you hit a wall in front of you, it will disperse backwards towards you. This caused me a few suicides when I first started playing Stoker. And also, if you throw it at a ceiling, the fire will fall down on the ground below it, and you can use this to your advantage. One other great thing about the Molotov is that the fire will actually finish off enemies, and since most enemies that die from the fire die in the fire, and you really don't have to worry about finishing them off. Also, the Molotovs do okay damage to EVs. However, if they are moving, they will typically move out of the radius, out of the fire, and I wouldn't consider the Molotovs to be a very effective way of taking them out. You'd be much better suited switching to another class, but in a pinch, they can do some work. But we'll talk more about the Molotovs in a minute. First, I want to go over some of the loadouts and augments. Fortunately, Stoker doesn't have any unique augments or any really great loadout cards. However, I do like Mechanic on him, and Mechanic is going to improve our repair and disarm rates by 20%. So since I would recommend the M4A1, the M61 Modern Rifleman is a solid card. We get the M4 with the Simeon as our secondary. We get Mechanic. We get Drilled for the 20% faster reload, which is always great. And lastly, we get Flying Pig, which is not really great for Stoker, but it will have its uses at times. Now, if you do like the Timic, then I kind of like the T52 Modern Rifleman. You get Mechanic again. You get double time so you can reload while sprinting, and you get Chopper for a 15% increase to melee damage. Unfortunately, you don't have the Kukri with that loadout, but I think it's, as far as the Timic goes, it's the best one we're going to get. So lastly, some tips for playing Stoker. We've already went over the mechanics of the Molotov, and once you get them down, they are relatively easy to use. Now, there is some times where they will act a little bit wonky, where you'll throw them at something and you'll swear you should pick up a couple kills, but it'll hit something and bounce back, and they are a little bit weird to use, but for the most part, relatively easy to use. So I mentioned that they make great area denial. However, since they have such a large cooldown, I would try to stay away from using them solely for that purpose. I would save them until you can also pick up a kill or two while trying to deny that area. Exceptions to this would be if you're guarding objective and you know you're going to die, then go ahead and throw one on the C4 or whatever you're guarding and buy your team some time to get back there. Or if you're trying to block a path while your teammate is trying to repair, or while you're trying to repair, you know, then that's just another great example of why you'd use it solely for area denial. You're just going to cut off one entrance where the enemy is going to be coming from. One of my favorite spots to throw them is, besides the obvious enclosed areas, is right behind an EV when someone is trying to repair or even trying to push the EV forward. If they're trying to repair, this is usually going to net you at least one kill, and of course deny that repair area for a while. If they're trying to push, then it's going to force them either away from the EV or at least to the outside, giving your team and yourself some easier shots. My favorite spot though is probably on the med station orgies. You know, my eyes light up whenever I see a med station, an enclosed area with a few guys huddled around it. A lot of times though, people will avoid dying from the fire and escape with partial health, and you and your team can just you know, clean up what's left of them. I've had a lot of times where I've done this where people have escaped, but I've got a couple kills, 2-3 kills right afterwards because they're at such low health. And you know, they are great for defensive getaways too. If you need to run away and someone's chasing you, drop a Molotov and it's very easy to block them off, you know, just letting you escape. Now, overall, I am loving Stoker. He was one of the remaining mercs that we know about that I really wanted, and now he's pretty much moved into my permanent rotation. I mean, he has a Timic, which I love. Still probably not as good as the M4, but I love it anyway. The Molotovs are fun as hell, and even though I usually prefer playing objective specialists, the mechanic augment makes him fairly solid in that department too. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I have. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Ammo station, like a candy store for hungry young guns.